This video lecture has been produced using artificial intelligence with the supervision of Belhaven faculty and staff.
Welcome. We find ourselves now at the final and perhaps most significant stage of our work together. Over the last several weeks, we've examined some very important domains: growth, leadership formation, ethics, and the role of artificial intelligence. Now we arrive at the culminating task, which is to bring all of those pieces together into a coherent whole. This synthesis is where the real work of leadership begins.
So our work today isn't about introducing a brand new concept. It's about the art of synthesis. It's about how to hold these different, vital domains together in a plan that is coherent, faithful, and actually executable. We'll start by exploring the challenge of integration itself, before moving to the core pillars that support it. We will then ground our thinking in the foundation of stewardship and see what all this looks like in practice. This will be our map for our time together. So let's begin with that core challenge, integration. We're going to explore a really crucial shift in perspective, moving from seeing leadership skills as separate items on a checklist to understanding them as a unified, interconnected whole. This is a vital conceptual move for any leader who truly intends to scale a venture with wisdom. This really brings us to the framing question for our entire discussion. How can leaders genuinely integrate strategy, artificial intelligence, ethics, and stewardship into a single, unified approach? This is the fundamental work of leading a technology venture through the complexities of growth. You see, leadership at scale is a fundamentally different challenge than it is in the early days. In the beginning, you can often get by with a certain amount of fragmentation. Your strategy might be informal, your ethics more implicit than explicit, but as you grow, that fragmentation becomes dangerous. Decisions begin to compound, systems harden, and what was once a small misalignment can become a major structural problem. And this is precisely why we need what we call integrative leadership thinking. It's the capacity to see your venture not as a collection of parts, but as a whole system where everything is connected. Your strategic intent, your technological capability, your ethical grounding, and your stewardship responsibilities must all align. This is the perspective we must cultivate as we move towards scaling.
So, the question becomes, how do we actually achieve this integration in a practical way? We're going to focus on three key pillars that must be held together: strategy, artificial intelligence, and ethics. This is where theory becomes practice.
We can think of this work in three essential steps. First, we have to establish genuine strategic coherence. Second, we must be incredibly thoughtful about how we integrate artificial intelligence. And third, we must ensure that our ethical alignment is clear and non-negotiable. These are the three pillars of integrative leadership. Strategic coherence is our first pillar. Now, this isn't about having a rigid 5-year plan set in stone. It's about having a clear and unifying logic for your entire venture. It's the clarity that allows anyone in the organization to answer three key questions. Why do we exist? How do we create value? And what trade-offs are we willing to make to achieve our goals? This clarity provides the direction for everyone. Now, artificial intelligence is something of a double-edged sword in this conversation. Used wisely, it can be a massive force multiplier, giving you incredible insight and operational leverage. But if it's introduced without care, it can also become a force of fragmentation, introducing a dozen misaligned tools that pull the organization in different directions. So the leader's task here is really one of discernment. You have to ask the hard questions. It's not just about what a new AI tool can do, but what it should do for our venture, within our mission. Technology, including AI, must always serve the strategy. It should never become the strategy itself. This is a critical distinction to keep in mind. And this brings us to our third pillar, ethics. And let me be clear, ethical considerations can never be an afterthought. You can't just try to bolt them on at the end. They have to be embedded from the very beginning, in the design of your products, in the governance of your company, and in the daily oversight of your operations. This is a non-negotiable part of honoring the dignity of every person we serve. So, we have these three pillars of strategy, AI, and ethics. But what holds them all up? What's the foundation they are built upon? Well, for us, that foundation is a theological one, a biblical understanding of stewardship. This frame gives all of our work its ultimate meaning and purpose. The most important thing to grasp about stewardship is that you are not the ultimate owner. You are a trustee. You are accountable to God for how you exercise the power, resources, and influence that have been entrusted to you. This one idea has the power to change everything about how we lead. So a perspective of biblical stewardship challenges the purely instrumental view that growth is all that matters. It forces us to ask deeper questions. It's not just about how fast we grow or how big we get. It's about how we grow. Is our growth faithful? Is it sustainable? Is it oriented toward the true long-term flourishing of all involved? These are the kinds of questions a steward must ask. Okay, so we've laid the theological foundation. Now let's bring this down to the level of practice. This is where we apply these ideas, especially as you begin to formulate your final project for this course. To be an effective, integrative leader, you have to be a realist. The strongest plans are not the most wildly optimistic ones. They are the ones that soberly acknowledge the real-world constraints, the risks, and the trade-offs involved. This isn't evidence of a lack of faith, it is in fact an exercise in wise planning. Your final project will be your opportunity to demonstrate this kind of thinking. What I'll be looking for is a plan that is balanced and well-rounded. A plan that is technically brilliant but ethically weak is not an integrated plan. Likewise, a plan full of good intentions but that is operationally disconnected from reality also misses the mark. The goal here is to bring all of these different pieces together into a coherent and thoughtful whole. This ability to integrate is, I believe, the very measure of mature leadership. This is the standard we are aiming for in all our work. Now, to bring our discussion to a close, I want to elevate our conversation one final step. What we are discussing here is not just about being a good manager or acquiring the right set of skills. It is about pursuing a moral discipline. It is about the pursuit of wisdom in all that we do. You see, biblical wisdom is not simply the accumulation of more and more information. It's about the right ordering of knowledge so that it leads to faithful action. It's a capacity that links together discernment, foresight, and a deep sense of responsibility. This is the wisdom we are called to pursue. The work of building and scaling a venture is profoundly formative. It doesn't just shape a company or a market, it shapes the leader. And the great danger in scaling a venture is that our growth can so easily outpace our wisdom. We must tend to both. So as you reflect on all we've covered, I want you to ask yourself a question. Which aspect of this integration stretched you the most? For some of you, it may be the challenge of aligning ethical commitments with the relentless pressure to perform. For others, it might be governing AI responsibly. Recognizing these tensions is a key part of leadership. And I want to leave you with a word of pastoral encouragement. The goal is not to achieve some kind of perfect, static balance. That is an impossible standard. The goal, rather, is a faithful alignment that we pursue over time with both humility and diligence. By holding strategy, AI, ethics, and stewardship together, leaders position their ventures not only to scale effectively, but to endure for the long term. This allows them to serve both the pressing needs of the present and contribute to a future of genuine flourishing, all under God's providential care. This is the great and worthy task before us.